All right. Well, welcome back to the Green Hour. Today, I'm very excited. We're joined by Donny Simmons, the president of Commercial HVAC Americas for Trane Technologies. Thank you so much for joining us today, Donny.
Thanks, Preston, for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and start off right away. Trane Technologies, I've done the research. It's a really, really interesting company, great company. But some of our listeners might not know what Trane Technologies is. So could you give a brief introduction about Trane Technologies and the role that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. So Trane Technologies, as a company, we have a purpose to boldly challenge what's possible for a sustainable world. And we're in the HVAC industry, and so all facets of the HVAC industry. And it's interesting because when you look at the statistics, 15% of greenhouse gas emissions come from heating and cooling buildings. And so we have a significant impact on that as a company. And that's what we do, and we feel like we can do a lot to help the environment in terms of improving overall, the overall greenhouse gas emissions and reducing that for the globe.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say 15%. I was going to get into that in the next point. As an HVAC company, I mean, you're tackling a big, I would say, issue with emissions. And what you're doing is you're really segmenting it across four different things with carbon, waste, energy, and your water. So when looking at your 2030 goals and what you're looking into, could you explain what Trane Technologies is doing in those four sectors of carbon, water, waste, and energy?
Absolutely. So maybe I'll go back in a little bit in time here for a bit around Trane Technologies. Actually, in 2014, we created some very bold targets in terms of improving our overall efficiency of our operations, of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We set some bold targets in 2014. We were able to achieve those by 2018. And so in 2019, we set another round of targets to meet by 2030. One of those is what we call the Gigaton Challenge, and that's about removing 1 billion metric tons of CO2 emissions from our customers. And so this is a very customer-centric goal that we have. And we're making good progress. Since 2019, when we set that target, we've already reduced 93 million metric tons of CO2 emissions from our customers. And so that's one. I mean, that's a really bold target. What was so breaking it down by carbon and then your water. I mean, I see that with water. I mean, y'all done a lot of cool things too. Note that 18% decrease in water use in water-stressed regions. Yeah, we have a heavy focus with all of our locations to reduce the water consumption. A great example, Monterrey, Mexico. We have a manufacturing facility there, and they've done an outstanding job significantly reducing the consumption of water. And they're in a water-stressed environment, and so they actually have a recycling program. They use all their own water. They collect rainwater. They actually manage all of their own waste as well. So really, and we're looking at all those, all of those type programs in all of our factories and giving them challenges. We have an internal challenge for our own facilities. We call that 25 by 25. We want 25% reduction in energy consumption by the year 2025. And so every one of our plant managers and engineers in the plants work to identify different programs on how to reduce their energy consumption, and we're on track. I mean, you mentioned the 3%. I think you mentioned the 3% reduction that we achieved last year. We're at 4% this year, so we're constantly looking with overall a goal of being net neutral by 2050. I mean, that's our overall goal.
Yeah, I mean, looking at your operational facilities, one thing that I love, and I've actually talked to, I had someone on the podcast talking about, if you're familiar with Shaw Industries, I'm talking about zero waste to landfill facilities.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to highlight is Trane Technologies' commitment to zero waste to landfill. And I think you're operating 22 locations right now that are zero waste to landfill. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
So again, every one of our and Shaw Industries is a great customer of Trane. Every one of our manufacturing locations focus on zero waste to landfill, and so we're on a journey. And so 22 of our, roughly 50 plus manufacturing locations are already there, and every other one has green teams that are focused on recycling programs so that ultimately we can get rid of all of the waste that we send to landfill. So making really good progress. We're also doing a lot from an innovation standpoint relative to that, redesigning our packaging so that it's incorporated into the design of the product. Therefore, you don't need pallets. In one of our factories, our unitary factory, we redesigned the entire platform so it eliminates pallets altogether. So you can imagine the amount of waste reduction associated with of wood pallets that take place in a factory like that. So we've got those type of programs that are going on in every one of our facilities.
So what's interesting is, so I work at a large flooring manufacturer, and I deal a lot with certifications for our flooring products, and specifically on indoor air quality. So what we use is Floor Score for our hard surface products, and then we use Green Label Plus for soft surface. And when I was doing research for this episode, I was like, this is so interesting because we have the air component, and then for what I'm doing is the flooring component. So I don't know if you could talk to those at all, those two certifications for Floor Score and Green Label Plus. But at my company, that's like a big differentiator that we use, especially when we're going to commercial clients and talking about lead points and getting these commercial buildings LEED certified.
Yeah, so we have over 1,500 LEED certified engineers in our organization today that help our customers identify ways to get those LEED points. We're focused heavily, and we always have been, on indoor air quality. And so we look at, we manage the entire system. In some ways, indoor air quality became really critical as a result of the pandemic that we all went through. But it's always top of mind for our customers, and we are able to look at the full system, and we have a control system that we can manage the full system so that we can help optimize not only the efficiency of the building, but also the air quality in that building as well. So I can't speak to those two specific certifications, but I can tell you that we're the experts when it comes to indoor air quality and system management.
Yeah. So pivoting, if we're talking ESG right now, we talked about the environmental piece, carbon, water, energy, and waste. And now if we look more into the social aspect of things and look at your diversity, inclusion, and equity, really what I've seen, what Trane Technologies is doing is really trying to create a diverse workforce. So could you talk about not only the diversity of your workforce, but also women in leadership positions at Trane?
Absolutely. So here's the best way to think about this is our goal from a diversity standpoint is that we want our workforce to represent the communities that we work in. And so that's what we're always striving. I think it was in 2018 when we first joined the Paradigm for Parity, which is around, and we made a commitment around having parity in leadership in terms of gender parity within leadership. And so today we're at roughly 25% of our leaders are female, and we've got a goal of getting to parity. Okay, so we have targets that we measure that we're focused on. We're trying to increase the attraction so that we can pull in, more females into the organization. We've got a lot of work that we're doing, and the reason is it's very simple. Like, diverse businesses perform better, and I've seen it firsthand in my own business. When you increase the diversity on the leadership team, you get different thoughts and make you think differently. And it's not just about gender parity; it's also about racial and ethnic diversity. And so we're also heavily focused. We've got 20% of our entire population of employees are racially or ethnically diverse. And so, again, we want to make sure that we represent the communities that we work in. And so it's a big effort for us in terms of just focusing on that and improving overall. And we're seeing improvement every single year to the targets that we have and the goals that we have overall as a company.
Yeah, that's incredible. One thing I want to touch on is the employee-led innovation program, Operation Possible.
Yeah.
So could you talk about that and how that started and what exactly that is?
Yeah. So when we created our kind of aligned around the purpose that we have of challenging what's possible and innovating for a sustainable world, we thought the best way to get going is to actually do some crowdsourcing within our own 40,000+ employees. And so we created Operation Possible, and we came up with, what are the large, I'm lost for the word, but what are the things that exist that is just like, why does that exist? Like, how can we possibly solve that? Whether it be plastic waste or how to improve food loss. And so we put these challenges out, crowdsourced with our employees. They come up with ideas, and then our entire employee population votes on those ideas. And then we put together a process where we now start to develop solutions and then deploy those solutions. And so it's engaging for our employees, and we're seeing a lot of great progress from that standpoint.
So, and again, I'll touch on what I do right now in my job. We're trying to create a sustainability ambassador program.
Yeah.
So bringing our salespeople in, educating them on sustainability so that they can be better versed when they're out in the field. But we also want to create this ambassador program so that we can have ideas come from all over the place, from all different backgrounds, all different locations. And that's what I want to get into next is education.
Yeah.
And Trane Technologies, it's really incredible. I mean, the commitment of $100 million and 500,000 volunteer hours for sustainable education initiatives. The way that I see it, and the whole idea behind this podcast was to increase education on sustainability. And I think that you really need to get the message out there. So could you talk about the education piece at Trane Technologies and all the work that you're doing?
Absolutely. So we have a focus on sustainable futures, and this is about making sure that we have diverse populations of people that we work on for STEM education, and that's how we're kind of thinking about our financial donations. In 2022, we donated $15 million to charitable organizations associated with this in order to help improve. That was a big increase from the prior, then to our commitment of $100 million. We had 65,000 volunteer hours out of our workforce contributing to charitable organization. And by the way, we allow every employee in the company 8 hours of paid time to volunteer time to charitable organizations, all of which to ultimately reach our goal of having 500,000 hours to charities. So we've got a lot of momentum. We also have, you mentioned the ambassador program. I like that concept. We don't have an ambassador program, but we have what we call purple teams. And so, the color of Trane Technologies is purple. And so we have purple teams, which these are teams of people in countries and local offices that are focused on all aspects of our ESG. And so they're focusing on what type of volunteer, what type of community events are they going to hold and give back to the community and make sure that they get multiple people from that location involved. And then we're able to share between those purple teams across the country, across the company, to come up with different ideas. And so they feed off of each other. And so we're seeing a lot of great benefit from that as well.
Yeah, I definitely need all the help that I can get with this program. And the purple team sounds incredible. One thing that I won't say struggled with, but when I was creating the volunteer aspect of our ambassador program, I was really focusing on the E of ESG, so the environmental piece. Because I was like, we can do river cleanups, we can do trail cleanups, we can get in the community, get our hands dirty. But then when talking to leadership, they're like, you're missing the piece on S, the social piece, like going and volunteering at charities, getting into the community. So I need all the help that I can get, and I'm really glad to hear that. I'll take that back with me next week when I'm back in the office.
Well, as an ambassador, you can get with all the other ambassadors and come up with different ideas and feed off of one another. That's what's so powerful about engaging our workforce on these type initiatives.
Right. Well, Donny, this has been an incredible conversation. I think we touched a lot of different pieces, not only with the environmental piece of ESG, but we talked social, and then we talked a little bit about education, which is really cool. So thank you so much for joining us, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you. Really appreciate the time.